Hi everyone, welcome back to our RBT training. Alright, so we're going to start talking about how we use differential reinforcement in our Hi everyone, welcome back to our RBT training. So today we're going to continue talking about reinforcement and specifically touch base on differential reinforcement. Differential reinforcement is an ADVA concept that basically means you deliver varying levels or intensity of reinforcement contingent upon how the individual behaves or complies with whatever directive you've given. Okay? Differential reinforcement is also a shaping technique where you shape a response by reinforcing certain behaviors or ignoring others. We're going to talk more about shaping in the near future, but for right now, we're going to continue talking about differential reinforcement and that process specifically, all right? So it's not that complicated. Many parents and caregivers who use differential reinforcement all the time without being aware of it are doing actually a pretty good job. But sometimes there are instances where they're using differential reinforcement incorrectly and are actually shaping behaviors that they don't want. Here's an example. Your 14-month-old toddler is beginning to move from babbling to making speech sounds and imitating vocals. You provide eye contact and hugs and kisses for clear speech sounds and no attention for babbling. So all of a sudden, language develops, right? This is how common language occurs with typically developing kids. We pay more attention to those sounds that are familiar and really are the basic components of speech in our language, while we start ignoring those babbling sounds. And this way, we end up shaping and creating an increase in the sounds that create language. Here's another example. Your 14-year-old often struggles to complete her homework on time. When she whines, complains about, or sighs loudly instead of her doing her homework, you ignore her. However, when she's on task, quietly working, or asks you for help, you provide huge amount of attention and lots of praise, right? A lot of parents, unfortunately, sometimes do the opposite though. Some of them will continue to stick around, or their child moans or argues about doing homework, and then it elicits a conversation with the parents, and before you know it, this conversation that could have been over and done with in 5 seconds, nope, sorry, this is your homework. Remember, when you're done with your homework, we can go on and do something else, but you just got to do it. Power through. Instead, it turned into a 15-minute argument where, you know, the duration of that non-compliance and whining and crying over having to do homework was lengthened because you continue to provide them with attention, right? You shape that behavior. So again, we have to be very careful about how we use differential reinforcement. So it just makes sense to give big reactions to big behaviors and small reactions to small behaviors. When working as an ABA therapist, it can sometimes be easy to overlook using differential reinforcement really to our benefit. So there are two main ways I see quite often how reinforcement is misused. Reinforcement is often given too freely, regardless of the child's behavior. This is what I call over providing differential reinforcement, or reinforcement is too minimal for how the child is behaving, under reinforcing. So let's talk specifically about what over reinforcing looks like. This usually looks like a therapist or parent who gives away reinforcement when the behavior isn't deserving, right? An example of this I recently saw was when I was with a client at the mall. After being at the mall for a while, her child was ready to leave and he began to tantrum and scream. So this parent has been trained on a 3-step prompting procedure where first, they restate the direction. Second, they give maybe a light touch with restating the direction again. And then third is, okay, restating the direction and full guidance to help this child follow through with whatever the original direction was. So the mother went directly into the procedure, which was fantastic, right? But on this third step of the procedure, the child suddenly reached out and knocked over a nearby display case of toys all over the floor. The mother used hand-over-hand prompting to get the child to pick up all of the toys, which was correct. Good job, Mom. However, while the mother was doing this, she was constantly speaking to the child, saying statements such as, "You are cleaning up so nice, good job, almost done, sweetheart, you're almost there, just a few more." This child was certainly not doing a good job cleaning up, as all the cleaning had to be physically prompted, and he even attempted to bite his mother a few times while he was cleaning up. A better way to do this scenario, using differential reinforcement, would be to use hand-over-hand prompting to have the child clean up the toys while providing minimal to no eye contact or language, right? This provides minimal amount of attention to the child, which could potentially lengthen that tantrum and increase the future probability of tantrums in the future. So then every few seconds, remove your hand while you're helping him clean up and see if the child will clean up independently. If not, that's okay. Just go back to hand-over-hand prompting. If they do begin cleaning up independently, you can deliver praise such as, "Good, keep going." But the praise shouldn't be over the top. It shouldn't be incredibly encouraging. It should be small and not large. Because remember, the child is in the middle of a 3-step prompting procedure. So you wouldn't want to shout, "Hooray!" because your child picks up a toy after knocking down 15 toys, okay? All right, so that's over. Let's talk about under. Under prompting typically looks like a therapist or parent who focuses too much on the terminal goal of the skill or whatever that end goal is. And they miss out on all of those little baby steps that are important in order to reach that end goal. And those baby steps should be encouraged and differentially reinforced along the way. Okay, that's a part of, again, shaping, which we'll get into later. An example is the other day, I was running an ABA session. Whenever the child did something correctly, the therapist would provide praise, right? But unfortunately, the way the therapist would provide praise was pretty boring and neutral. Things would be like, "Wow, good job picking up the pencil. All right, nice job cleaning up. Good job sitting down. Nice work starting your activity." Okay? This was the reinforcement the child received. Whether, he did something exceptional, did it within 2 seconds, or whether it took him 20 seconds to initiate a task. For a child to understand that something that takes a little bit more effort is going to be rewarded and is worth doing, or a behavior that they might not really want to do, but we need to create some sort of motivation to get them to do it, they need to understand that they're equally going to have someone that's enthusiastic and going to provide them with the reinforcement that matches that level, okay? There's actually a principle in behavioral analysis we call the Premax principle. That means that the amount of reinforcement kind of has to match the effort in order for us to see that behavior, okay? If something's really hard to do, you better ramp up the verbal praise and excitement you give them when they complete it. Otherwise, they're not going to do it again because it was too tough, okay? So we really have to make sure that we give praise specifically for things that we want to see increase, and that we don't give praise for those things that we don't want to see increase or that we want to see completely go away. Okay, going back to that extinction principle where we no longer provide reinforcement for a previously reinforced behavior, hoping that we completely see it go out of the child or adult's repertoire. There's a document that I'm going to share with you that you can find online. It's called 100 Ways to Reinforce. It's something that I like to give out to parents or teachers who I'm working with or therapists, and it just provides a variety of different ways to provide praise or to tell someone that they did a good job, because I think sometimes it's hard for us. We get stuck in our own routines, right? I know you watching this video of me, you're probably like, oh my God, there are some things that she does in routine over and over again that are just going to kill me. But that's just part of our repertoire. So literally sometimes you have to work at varying your verbal praise or the way that you tell someone they did a good job. And this document offers some creative examples. So please review it when you have the opportunity, okay? Using reinforcement at the table correctly will decrease boredom in the child, motivate the child to exert more effort, and help to encourage the child for effort-based performance, even if actual performance of the task was poor. If I'm working with a child on a block design program and I see her struggling with the program and beginning to become frustrated, I'll make a statement such as, "You're working so hard." I'm not praising the child's performance specifically because she isn't doing the task correctly, so I can't. But what I am doing is providing encouragement or increasing or maintaining what we call behavioral momentum. So she'll continue to try, and we don't have that child that all of a sudden flops on the floor to escape or avoid doing work. Now, after all that, the struggle, the child suddenly completes the block design task independently. I'm going to basically throw a party, shout, clap, and provide huge reinforcement like, wow, good job, you did it, awesome work. All right, now on to the next thing, right? Because it should be a party, it should be over the top, it should look silly from the outside, because I want to make sure that the next time this individual comes in contact with something difficult, they know that there's the potential for reinforcement if they follow through and comply with at least making an initial attempt, okay? But that takes good judgment and good differential reinforcement techniques. All right, so that's a general overview of differential reinforcement. Now let's get into the different types of differential reinforcement.